Hey, true blue, don't say you've gone. Say you've knocked off for a smoker and you'll be back later on. Hey, true blue, hey, true blue, give it to me straight, face to face. Are you really disappearing? Just another dying race. Hey, true blue, true blue, is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue, I'm asking you. Hey, true blue, can you bear the load? Will you tie it up with wire just to keep the show on the road? Hey, true blue, hey, true blue, and be fitting. Is your heart still there? If they sell us out like sponge cake, do you really care? Hey, true blue, true blue, is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when she's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue, I'm asking you. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue,
I welcome you here today for the memorial service to celebrate the wonderful life of Des Tomlinson. My name is Rebecca Broad and it is my great privilege to conduct this service today. Des left this world surrounded by love and in great peace with those that loved him by his side on the 26th of January 2024 in Mornington. He had been fighting an illness for quite some time. Although his illness ended his life, that does not mean that he lost his battle. He fought hard, he did what needed to be done, and he won by simply doing it in his way, which, if you knew Des, was very important to him. Des faced death head-on and with no fear. He prepared for his time. No fuss, not a big scene. He just quietly wanted to slip away. Death is a very taboo subject, and not many people speak about it, prepare for it, and there are not many conversations that are had with loved ones about what we would like afterwards. But not Des. He was prepared, he was ready, even going so far as to make his own coffin. He had sorted that there was to be no fuss, no tears. Miss me a little, if you will, but get on with your lives, and remember, only the happy times that we shared. This is the way Des lived. He never wanted to be the centre of attention. He never needed to be in the spotlight. No thanks were needed. He just got on with what needed to be done and moved on to the next project. What Des failed to see was that he made a profound impact on so many lives, and he has left a legacy that he should be incredibly proud of. For if it were not for him and the way he made things happen, a lot of people would be worse off. So Des, everybody here today has completely disregarded your request for no service. Your life was worth talking about. Your life was worth celebrating. You deserve the honour of being in the spotlight today. You have earned it. Let us also spare a thought for Des's family today. His wife Beres, who passed away in 2009. His children and partners, Darren and Tracy and Stephen. His grandchildren, Chris, Emily, Kaylee, Jack and Beau. His great-grandchildren, Shaylee, Ivy, Remy and Lucas. And his partner Claire and her children, Pete, Paula and Tim, and their children, Mia, Ali and Bree. Des was an incredible father and grandfather figure to them all and had a significant impact on their lives. Des was a man of many talents. Not only was he a loving and dedicated father to his children, making sure they were always at their sporting events, helping out the various clubs when he could, and getting involved in any way that was needed. He was also a very well-respected member of the Cobram community. He helped immensely with the planning and construction of the Cobram Sports Stadium. He started his own dairy repair business. He was a dairy farmer at one stage in his life and a welder boilermaker. Des also had an incredible talent of making things with wood and metal. He made his grandchildren cubby houses, swing sets and monkey bars. Even when he was quite ill, he still managed to measure out and cut all the required pieces and leave very detailed instructions on how the last cubby house for the last grandchild was to be constructed. To add some more depth into the story of Des, could I please ask his sons Darren and Stephen to come forward and read the eulogy?
G'day everyone, look, thanks for coming, muchly appreciated. Thank you for those kind words. Basically covered off on everything that I wanted to say. So if I repeat something, I'm sorry. We've decided to break the eulogy up into two parts. I'm actually going to do a bit of a timeline of Dad's life. And Steve's actually then going to get up and actually have a chat about Dad as a person, as a man, as a father and a grandfather. We thought that was the best way to do this. Dad actually did a lot in his life. He achieved a lot, did a lot of things. And there are two unofficial themes that I'd actually like to bring into the eulogy for both me and Steve, and Paula, who I believe will be actually up having a chat as well. There are a couple of things that were said to me about my father over the past couple of months, which I'd really like to share with everyone. They were really nice comments, and I think they underpin who Dad was. The first one came from Brian Radovic, who Dad coached in junior basketball back in Cobram. And as they grew older, they actually developed an adult friendship. I was talking to Brian on the phone, and Brian said to me, "Mate, your father meant a lot to a lot of people." And I thought that as a summary of someone or my father was actually really nice. It was a nice thing to say. Brian's not prone to gabble on, and it came from his heart. And I thought that as a summary for Des, was excellent. The second thing which was said to me came from Ali, so Claire's granddaughter and Dad's granddaughter. When Dad was quite unwell, we were at Paula's house. We were having dinner, and while we were talking, Ali said, "I wish I'd known him for longer." And once again, I think that's a really nice thing for someone to say. You know, it sums up what they've brought to their life. And that was the reason for why we've broken up the eulogy into two parts. So I'll go through what he did, and that way, hopefully, you'll get a sense of what he achieved, who he was, and what he did. And then Steve will talk, you know, and that'll be a broad sketch. Steve will then bring in some colour into his life and fill him out as the man that you all knew, and the reason why you're here. So Dad was born in November 1937 in Richmond to Winnie and Alexander Tomlinson. Alex is better known as Jack. Spent their early life in Victoria, in Melbourne. Jack joined the Australian Imperial Force in 1940 after the outbreak of war. He was sent overseas to the UK and to Europe to fight over there. He was a train driver, so he drove trains as part of the war effort. Shortly after Alex left Australia, Max, Dad's younger brother, was born in 1941. Tough time for Winnie, Max and Dad. She struggled to be able to look after two small kids. She actually had to take a job as a cook on a farm, and she moved up to Swan Hill to do that. Dad was looked after by Winnie's sister, his auntie Molly, and I think that was the first pivotal part of Dad's life. He really understood the requirement of family, people stepping up to the plate to actually help out. And family wasn't just that nuclear mum, dad and the kids. It was actually the wider group. It was uncles, aunties, grandparents. And that when you needed help, you really needed to step forward and do it. And Steve will expand on that later on in his talk. So Dad lived with his auntie Molly. When Alex came back from the war, he'd been gone for too long. He didn't get back until 1945. The relationship floundered, and so he left the family. Dad and Max never saw their father again, and that was the second pivotal point in Dad's life. He grew up without a dad. He grew up in a single family in the 40s and the 50s. It was tough, and it was one of the things he would never allow to happen to his family. He'd never let his kids grow up without a father. He'd never let his wife grow up without a husband, or not have a husband and not be provided for. Once again, Steve will expand on that further on down the line. Dad moved up to Swan Hill, absolutely loved it, loved the country life, and that sort of gave him direction for where he wanted to be and what he wanted to do, and his job choices later on. They eventually moved back to Melbourne and moved into a housing commission area in Ashburton, where they stayed for a while. I'll stayed forever, essentially. Dad left school at the age of 13 to help out with the family finances because times were tough. His first job was in a clothing store in the city. He was a storeman, sales assistant. He sold clothes. He didn't last there long. He preferred being outside working construction. So he took up a number of other jobs, one of them being a roof tiler, which he quit because he got sick and tired of falling off roofs. He did a certificate course in welding, which he really enjoyed. He always wanted to be an engineer. And he eventually ended up in Cotty's Cordials as a storeman. And it was there that he met a woman by the name of Beres Cunnington, who, according to Beres, Dad used to chase around the factory floor on the forklift. Now, that attempt at romance seemed to work because they dated, and in 1961 they married. Dad managed to convince Mum, or Beres became my mother, by the way. They moved to Katandra West. Dad took a job on a dairy farm as a share farmer and dairy farmer, milking cows. It was at Katandra West that Steve was born in 1963. But around that same time, there was a coach of a local football team who had played against Dad when Dad had played footy for Ashburton. He approached Dad and asked him to come along and play for his team. He was a new coach, thought Dad could play, so please come along. Young family and the job, Dad knocked it back, he was too busy. That coach took the team to a couple of premierships. When he finished coaching that local team, Shepparton, he got the job coaching Richmond in the VFL. He took them to 4 premierships. When he finished there, he went to Collingwood, where he took them to 4 grand finals, no premierships. That coach's name was Tom Hafey, and I'm guessing that he was a pretty good judge of football talent. And so from that, I'm guessing that Dad was a pretty fair footballer in his day. He didn't like to tell people about it, but he was. They left Katandra West, they moved to Yarrawee, took up a job. We had family in the local area, the McDonald's. And he took the job, once again, share farming on a dairy farm. That's where I was born, out of Yarrawee. The drought of 67 was pretty harsh. They had to get off the farm, and they moved back down to Ashburton, where we lived in a caravan back of Nana's place, his mum's house. Dad took a job for a company called W.R.&D. Wells. They were a farm supply milking machine company. They were really big in rotary dairies, and rotary dairies were just starting to come in, and they were the forefront of it, and Dad worked for them, and he became an expert in rotary dairies. He was headhunted by a large farming group in South Australia who asked him to go over and build the very first rotary dairy in South Australia. And after that, he'd get the job as farm manager. He took the job, off he went over to South Australia in about 1970. Built the dairy, it's still working today. I saw it not long back when I was down in South Australia. It's still functioning, still going well. Well, after he built the dairy, they reneged. They employed him as a farm labourer, not a farm manager. Dad wasn't happy with that. So back we came in about the middle of 1971, and we moved out to Ferntree Gully about 1973. Steve and I, being normal young boys, we joined the Cubs and the Scouts. Dad became a Scout leader, really heavily involved with the Scout organisation. I started playing junior football. Dad became team manager. Started playing basketball. He became coach, got involved in the Ferntree Gully Falcons basketball club, became president. Joined part of the basketball association. At that time, there were only 2 stadiums, and all of it was played in high schools, church halls, community halls. Dad was at the forefront of pushing to get a basketball stadium built locally where all the local clubs were. In 1979, a 3-court basketball stadium at Knox City was built at Baronia. And for the work that Dad did for both the club and the association, he was made a life member of both. He went back and worked for W.R.&D. Wells while we were in Melbourne, but the job meant he spent a lot of time from home, which didn't sit well with him. He was a sales manager, and he travelled Australia doing what he had to do. He wanted to spend more time with us as a family, so in 1979, sounds strange, he started a business up here in Cobram, milking machine supplies. He'd work at Monday to Friday, come back on the weekends. The business did really well, and so in Christmas 1979, we left Melbourne and we moved up to Cobram. Dad, once we got up here, Dad got involved with the basketball again. He found we were playing outdoors on the showgrounds, asphalt courts under lights. Realised that really we needed an indoor stadium, and so he started the process to get that. There are a few roadblocks. It might surprise you to hear this about Dad. He could be a bit of a bulldozer when he needed to be. He pushed through those roadblocks that were set up, and in 1991 we got a nice 2-court basketball stadium built out the back of Cobram. And for that, he was made life member, once again, of the Cobram Amateur Basketball Association. He worked the business with Steve and it was a really successful business until the mid-1990s. Sold the business to semi-retire. I'm not sure he understood what that word meant. He started working on the farm with a family member, Darryl Hoey. He took work at an irrigation company. He worked out on the orchards. He started an ice cream business on weekends because apparently he didn't have enough to do. And he'd go to fetes and markets and fairs selling ice creams. And that worked really well. They built a house on the same block of land that they had the main house. Mum and Dad moved into that. Steve and his family moved into the main house. This was a good time for Dad in his life. He brought a boat because he was annoying the hell out of Mum. She made him buy the boat and he went fishing. And he really thoroughly enjoyed it. With the grandkids living right next door to him, he could see them every day, and that was like the joy of his life. He planted roses all the way up. It was about an 80-metre driveway. He planted roses all the way up. And Nikki, who was an adopted daughter from the 1980s, semi-adopted, she had her own family, but we adopted her into our family, used to say that when the flowers were out, it was like driving past a colouring book. It was a kaleidoscope of colours. And he loved his garden, loved his roses. They brought a caravan and they caravanned. They loved it. He never wanted to go overseas. As he said, there's too much to see here. So they travelled everywhere. It was a really good time for Dad. In 2009, Mum passed away. That was a hard time for Dad. He grieved hard, and he grieved for a really long time. Luckily and thankfully, he met Claire. That was 2012. No, I see. I just don't. They say that the greatest gift that a man can give to his children is to let them know that he loved their mother. That was a gift that Dad gave to me and Steve. No doubt in our mind at all that he loved Mum. When he met Claire, he took all that love and affection and he gave it to Claire, and he then gave that gift to her family, Paula, Pete and Tim and their granddaughters. I think it's a nice gift that we got. Beautiful gift that he has managed to share it with another family. And they became part of his family as well, which was important to him because it expanded his family, expanded the love that he could share. They moved over to Cobram in 2014. They continued to caravan. It became their thing. They caravanned. They travelled extensively around Australia. They came up to see me in Darwin a couple of times, travelled all around Western Australia. It was a good time for Dad. But this time he was starting to slow down. He'd stopped working, but he was doing a lot in the shed, building up his garden, planting trees, bringing in native birds, growing roses again and lavender. It was a good time of his life. Dad came to Darwin in June 2022 to my son's, Jack's, 21st birthday. Shortly after he came back from that, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, prostate cancer. He fought like hell against that disease. He didn't want to go. As he said, he still got too much to do. He just didn't want to go. He passed away in a room filled with sunshine and native flowers in a house of people that loved him. He passed peacefully. He had no pain. He was born, He was born on the 24th day of the 11th month, 1937. He passed away 24 minutes past the 11th hour, Australia Day, 2024. He picked his own time to pass so that we'd always remember it. That's enough for me. That's the timeline. You all fit in there somewhere. Every single one of you. Thanks for coming along. I know you meant something to him because you're all here. I'll finish up now. I'll pass over to Steve. That's the timeline. That's a broad sketch. Steve will now colour in that life and explain to everybody what he was to us as a man and a father. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Darren. I was all right till you made that last comment. All right, so you opened with a couple of comments that sort of people had made to you that he meant it. He was there for a lot of people, meant an awful lot to a lot of people, and that people wish they had known him longer. strangely enough, I've had the same, no, actually not strangely enough, I've had the same comments said to me from different people around here. Our chiropractor, who we've seen for the last 30 odd years in town, said the same thing to me. He was a beast of a man. Wasn't physically imposing, wasn't overly large physically imposing, but you knew he was there. If you needed something done, he'd do it. My future son-in-law, maybe, also said to me at times that he would have wished he'd had met him sooner. So that's the general theme of things right through. So, all right, so you've probably heard a bit from Darren. Dad was very family orientated. It didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter if you were a blood relative or anyone else. If you were part of his life, you were part of his family. Didn't matter if he hadn't seen you for a long time. As kids, even in Infantry Gully, growing up in basketball, there was an open door house policy. Friends, relatives, anyone, call round. If you needed to chat, you could come round. And that just never stopped. We came up here. It was the same thing. He got involved with basketball. Darren went to school here. I'd finished, so any of Darren's school friends, Nikki, that he sort of mentioned earlier, become a surrogate sister to us. And when she actually she wanted to be a hairdresser, didn't have anyone to practice on. Dad, oh, not that Dad had any hair. Dad, Mum, Darren and myself, geez, we had some shit haircuts over the years. But we were there to help you. There is a number of people here locally that I've seen sort of walk in that he had a huge impact on. Basketball-wise, there's a guy sitting up the back up there, Brian, that you could say Brian at 12 was, probably at 10, he was a loose cannon. A very loose cannon, he probably still is. But when he got word that Dad was sick and it was terminal, he rang me one night out of the blue. I hadn't heard from for ages, and he started what was, I've had too much to drink, but I need to tell you this. Your old man saved my life. He was a saviour to me. He helped me through so many things, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. And even at 30 years old, when I was going through issues, I could call him and he'd talk to me. Again, lifelong sort of friendships. Sitting up the back is this table. Oh, sorry. This table here. After the service, come up and have a look. There are little tokens of things that represented Dad's life that we've been able to do. Every item here has a story. If you're wondering what the keys in the water are, talk to Chris about that one later, when he was about 7 years old. It's a good story. But everything here has a story. The cow there, when we moved up here, we had the dairy sort of thing. He always say there's nothing better than black and white on green. He loved those Frisian cows, looking at them as you're driving past the thing. Past the fields, sorry. There's a basket there of produce from his garden over at Cobram. Flowers and plants, vegetables, which is something he always prided himself on. Even Claire's family, his latest granddaughters that he so dearly loved. There, he taught them how to garden, and when we were down there, Dad's last couple of weeks, all the girls, they had their own little plot, and they were looking after their own flowers and things, and it was just awesome. It was just really good. Dad's legacy, you know. There's a basketball sort of premiership flag here, and sort of there's a photo. I've been searching for this photo for 40 years, and I found it this morning. It's our under-16 premiership team from 1979. There's three of us here out of that team that have come up, and I don't know what happened to us. I really don't, after looking at that. But they, he coached us. He coached kids at formative years in Melbourne when sort of we were kids, but also up here too, and anywhere he was. You know, if anyone needed a hand, door was open. He was always there, and I'd like to think that both these apples here haven't fallen too far from the tree, actually. So yeah, Dad's legacy is just amazing. When we were in Melbourne, sort of coaching basketball, Dad, he was a coach. He coached both of us. I think Darren was playing probably under 12s, and we had a friend with a family that their son, 1 year he played with Darren, 1 year he played with me. He was sort of aged in between us, and sort of he had a sister that wanted to play. Ferntree Gully didn't have girls teams. The entire league out there, I think, had only just really started girls junior basketball. So Dad, being himself, he went through the rules and regulations of the association, every bylaw, looked at everything and decided there is nothing to stop this girl playing in the boys' team. She was under 12. At that stage, boys and girls are the same. No, there's nothing there. So he played her, and she could play. I think she played 3 or 4 games, and then all of a sudden the club was starting to get complaints about this girl playing. It wasn't because she was a girl in the team, it was because she was kicking ass. She was a hell of a player. Went through appeals, and anyway, she was banned, and that then led to probably the first girls basketball team with Ferntree Gully Falcons. This kid went on and made her Women's National League, started that at 15 years old, played with Nuttall Inspectors in a golden era there with Robin Marr and quite a few others that played for Australia. She, after her playing, she became a coach. She's coached teams to multiple premierships here in Australia. She has coached overseas in the Women's National Basketball Association League. Coached Australia. She was assistant coach for quite a few years, and then actually became the head Opals coach, and won a silver medal at 8 years ago, or what it was. She's also in the Australian Basketball Hall of Fame. Carrie Graff. I don't know if you follow basketball, you will know the name. I used to go to Canberra. A couple of heads up there looking at me, smiling. I used to go to Canberra when we had the ice cream thing once a year, and Carrie was still coaching the sort of Canberra team. And if they playing on Saturday night, I'd go in the basketball stadium. She still recognised me, still talked about Dad, even up to 10 years ago. So, and just always said to me that if it wasn't for him, she probably wouldn't play basketball. These days and times, she was one of those that would sort of probably be playing AFL football. So, you know, and he used to always say, I was Carrie's first coach. I taught her everything she knew. We always let that sort of, we sort of let him have that one. When we came up here, we had the milking machine business, and we lived out at home at Coonamoo, and we had a couple of young guys that just needed a little bit of direction in life. So Dad gave them jobs with us. I don't think we actually needed the workers much, but he gave them a job, he gave them somewhere to live, and again, a father figure. So, yeah, and there's one of them sitting up the back up there. His sense of humour, if anyone has ever heard him, actually he was a salesman too, you know, even the milk machines he had to sell. And he could talk and sell. Sell ice to Eskimos is how I always said it. He just had no problem doing that at all. But his sense of humour, in the last couple of weeks, when we're down in Melbourne, I was living down there helping to care for him, and he'd sort of been asleep for a while, and I'd been flicking through the Foxtel, and I came across Blazing Saddles on TV, on Foxtel. It's something that these generations here have missed out on greatly, the younger kids. And just then he woke up, and I went in to see how he was and help him to the loo, and as he came sort of back, he saw what was on TV, and oh my God, is that thing still playing? You'll never see that on normal TV again. And I said, do you want to sit here and laugh? Have a watch? And he said, no, if I sit there I'm going to laugh that much, I'll probably break all my ribs. So he just went to bed. But I remember seeing that the first time in a drive-in theatre with Dad, Mum, two of us sitting in the back seat, and tears rolling down his face when it first came on. Just absolute things like that. Flying High, you know, all those older movies that they're not allowed to make anymore for some reason. But yeah, his sense of humour was fairly dry at times, but he was straight to the point as well. I used to go to work with him, and if you've ever heard a couple of his sayings, you get called, "You're as useless as tits on a bull." And I'd get sacked during the day. I'd go home at night and Mum would rehire me. Then the next day I'd get sacked again. Mum would rehire me. The day that Mum sacked me, I was standing there waiting for Dad to say, "No, you're hired," and all he did was stand there and say, "See, I've been trying to tell you for years, he's useless as tits on a bull." So any of us that played basketball will remember the get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, because he wanted us to press all the time. I think Nuttawatting Stadium and Knox Stadium, and if you open the door you probably still hear his voice saying it, it just sort of echoes through the thing. His other favourite saying was, "I'm going to kick your ass till your nose bleeds." How many heard that? There would have been a few, which, you know, as a kid you think, geez, that's a bit savage, that's a bit ordinary. But then when the grandkids came along, he didn't sort of quite say that, but he'd be looking at him, he'd go, "You, me, outside." So he always had that jovial sense of humour, and right to the end actually. We probably got 6 months extra out of Dad than what we thought we would, and towards the end there, his quality of life was still there. He was still mobile, in pain. The pain was being looked after and things like that. And when it was very much at the end and had to be started on the morphine, Darren had sort of come down. I'd sort of rang him and said, "I think you need to come down." And we had the palliative care nurse team there, and you know, they decided they were going to put the butterfly valve in just for when it was needed. Now, he eventually agreed to that. One of his early, 3 days before he passed away, he was having trouble swallowing his pills. So Dad asked Darren, are you able to sort of set this up? I'd rather you do it than have a stranger do it. And Darren's first response as a doctor said, that's a nurse's job. And he said, I don't care, I want my son to do it. That way I can yell at you. Darren said, okay, is it going to hurt? Darren shouldn't, no. He allows Darren to go ahead and do it. And because it just went in under the skin, didn't have to find a valve, but because Dad had lost an awful lot of condition at that stage, Darren had to sort of hold it there so he could pull the needle out and said, I'm outside the room, and all I can hear was, I'm not very happy. So I went in and I said, sort of, what's wrong? You said it wouldn't hurt. That hurt. What happens if I don't want it in? Darren said, then we take it out. And I'll guarantee you I'll just rip it out and it'll hurt more. So he said, all right. So Darren said, look, I'll just, a little bit of saline in it, just so you know what it feels like. We want you to be right. Put the saline in, and he was weary, so Darren said to him, well, just have a sleep, get some rest, you'll be all right. Dad's words were, sleep? Every time I go to sleep, some prick wants to come in and stab me. And he looked at me and you bastard, you're not supposed to let anyone hurt me like that. Those are the last words he said to us. Which you wouldn't expect much more from him. The coffin, yes, he did make his coffin. He refused to spend money on something that was going to get burnt. He said to me at one stage, put me in a Hessian sack, in a cardboard box, blah, blah, blah. And we went, no. Much to Claire's disdain and horror, she heard him hammering down the shed and saw her and asked him one day, what you doing? He said, oh, just make me coffin. She went down and had a look, and it was just, she said to me, I was beside myself, I just couldn't. Darren was actually down for a week, and he took us over the shed all sort of proud, and well, I got something to show you. So he unwrapped, and I think both of us just stood there and went, are you kidding? How did you measure yourself? Oh, I just put the tape measure down and put my foot on it. Oh, yeah, that's about that. So, but as Darren said, he didn't want any fuss. He didn't want any hassle. He didn't want anyone having to do things, to the point that he even wanted to start packing up the shed. So no one had. So he wasn't an issue to anyone. Just things that he should have been thinking about other things, but he was thinking about everybody else, which is just what he did. In his last couple of months, yes, there is a cubby house half completed. Peter probably helped him a fair bit when he was coming up. I went over and helped him at times, and I do have a list of explicit instructions of how the rest of it is to go together. It was just one step, two step, and when we're talking about it, I said to him, even at work, you always said there were three ways to do things. My way, the right way, the wrong way, and my way. And you'll bloody well do it my way. And even in his last few weeks, it was still his way. And I actually said to him at one stage, I said, why do you have to go through everything step by step by step? He said, because that way I've told you how I want it done. If there's a problem, if it doesn't work, then that's on me. I can see Daryl Hoey laughing because he sort of no doubt had a lot of that when he was working on the farm with Daryl too. So, yeah, and he wasn't a control freak, but he wanted the best out of everyone and was prepared to help you to be that person. He took the grandkids fishing all the time in the boat. His great grandkids, one of the last real times he went out, he took them fishing, bought them little fishing rods, took them fishing so that he sort of taught them how to do. So, yeah. He was a colourful person, very solid person. Had a lot of love for everybody. And, yeah, just, he is going to be missed, very much so. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Well done, guys. You've done really, really well. If Paula and Pete would like to come up now.
Just sing a song. I'll just start. I'm going to start from our beginning and finish with the star. How beautiful it was that two oldies, I would have thought past their prime, hooked up through a dating app. But you know what? We always admired their tenacity, and I think it was very fitting for the modern world and the modern men. It was the beginning of a beautiful love story, a story my family are so grateful to be part of. Des and Mum had so much in common: their love of family, caravanning, fishing, closer to home, their garden, and of course Maisie, their dog. Des coming into our family made us whole. He was a perfect partner for my mum, the perfect other dad for me, the perfect other father for Pete, and the perfect grandfather for our girls, Mia, Ellie and Bree. He looked after Mum, he loved Mum, laughed with Mum, and enjoyed the simple things in life with Mum. For me, those things made him great. Pete, his mate, he called him that from day one to when things got tough. They had such a beautiful bond, so much in common, including their ability to laugh. Sorry, I've got all these notes, I have to turn sideways. The ability to laugh laugh at each other all the time. They spent a lot of time in the shed doing shed stuff, talking shed shit, and simply enjoying each other's company. Our girls and Des had the most heated debates around the kitchen table. All sorts of topics, all sorts of opinions. And as many of you would know, Des was not short of opinions. He met his match with our three. I would just walk away thinking this is going to get really ugly really quick, 3 against 1. It wasn't until some time later that he said to me he loved debating with the girls, encouraging them to fight for what they believe in. My reply was, yeah, Des, I really love that, but I still continue to walk away every time. Mum and Des had so many amazing trips around Australia. No doubt many of you got the detailed email accounts of their travels. He was such a talented writer, painting a clear picture of their time away. They would hitch up the van, packed to the hilt with fishing rods, eskies on freeze for all the fish he would catch, and you name it, they had it in the van. They met so many people and made so many friends along the way. The photos they took just showed the fun, love and adventures they had. We too, as a family, also had many trips away with them, all sorts of camping to all sorts of places, and just adds to our memories that we will remember of him. Fishing was one of his passions and Mum's too. They would rig up a line and fish wherever they went, top end of Australia, Tin Can Bay. You name it, they went, they fished. And if that didn't work out, they ate spaghetti. Their garden, oh my goodness, their garden, their perfect picture garden, or should I say gardens. The house at 100 The Avenue. Too much gardens, I used to say to them. Stop planting so many gardens. So what do? They plant another garden and call it Paula's garden. Bloody shits. We will miss him so much. Sorry. I learnt so much from Des about the vegetable garden. It was our thing. Often the first thing I would do when I got to their house was check out his veggies. The last thing I would do upon leaving was clear out the veggie garden of the produce that I could pick and take home. We will all miss him so much, but are so grateful for the time that we had with him, the many wonderful memories we have made. Many years ago, I chose a bright star for my own dad, and I have now chosen one for Des, knowing I have 2 beautiful dads looking over me and mine. I hope you too can choose a special star for Des. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Paula. Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to come forward and say a few words about Des?
I didn't actually prepare anything, though. I didn't think I'd get the opportunity at the actual service. I thought it would be in the bar later, having a Carlton dry and thinking of Des. I suppose how I became to be the adopted daughter, going to school with Darren and Steve being the older brother. I was an only child. And I suppose only children with busy mum and dad who were very good at sports. I was always looking for that family, you know, I love the idea of having big brothers, you know, who wouldn't? And in saying that, I had to do things to fit into this family. I knew nothing about basketball. I'm 5'3", not 2 as I lie about. I'm 5'3". But Des decided he could coach an Australian champion, so why not? So not only did I attempt to play basketball, and the boys are smiling, he made me the secretary of the Cobram Amateur Basketball Association, knowing that my skills of basketball were no good, but at least I could help write grants and things like that. That was more of a skill. The other things on the table, I knew absolutely nothing about farming, but coming into this family, I learned all about Westphalia separators. I can't believe I still know what a Westphalia separator is. But I learned all about the dairy industry. I'd been a token vegetarian for a number of years, totally against the thought of raising calves like Steve did, and you know, the horrible dairy industry. But here I was out helping sell Westphalia separators. I think I could say lots of things. The haircuts I'm very sorry for. Des did not have good hair. And it wasn't my cause. He tried to make a gardener out of me. Didn't work. I moved out to Coonamoo, closer to the family. Moved out to Coonamoo with my husband, who, by the way, didn't quite get the setup of why I had these big brothers, but moved out with the family, and Des tried to make me into a gardener. He planted agapanthus. I killed them, God knows how. He planted vegetables, he planted roses, and he told me to prune them. I pruned them down this high, thinking that was pruning, and they ended up being stumps and this high. So he couldn't teach me that. What he could teach me, though, was a lot of things about families, and even how blended families are even better. So it was a great set of values that I really took back, and I have 3 sons together with my husband, and I did learn a lot of family values from Des. Yeah, that's probably about it, I guess. There was one other thing I just totally gone to finish off, but here's to Des. I'm sitting there having a Carlton dry at the first funeral I've ever had a beer at. So cheers, everyone, and happy memories.
Thank you, that was lovely. I've got a letter here from Claire that she would like me to read out. Just bear with me because she's got lovely handwriting and I'm just a young'un and I can't read it properly. So thank you sincerely to everybody who is here to celebrate Des's 86 years. We have been together for 12 years and have fit a lifetime into those years. We have many things in common and many interests. We both love gardening, and he especially loved his veggie garden. Fishing was another interest of both of ours. He always got a bit peeved when my tuna was bigger than his. On a trip in Weipa, the Northern Territory, packing up the van and sorry, Claire. And heading off on another adventure was always terrific. Can you read the writing?
Maybe. Oh my God. Our biggest trip was up to the tip of Australia, which really tested our old legs getting to the steps.
Getting to the hill. I did know that bit. Going up the hill.
Oh, are you there? I'm here.
No, no. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
I did put hill somewhere there.
A trip to a little
place
called
Seisha?
Seisha.
Is that
Seisha.
Seisha.
Really opened up our eyes. The locals, well,
were reeling in hundreds of fish and flinging them onto the pier. They would give the fish to the locals that and the elderly in the town that needed to be fed. We were fortunate enough to meet some great people on the road and who are still great friends with us today. A highlight of the week was
Friday night
with Mark, Gary and Bob in the shed. They talked a lot of very serious talk and a heap of rubbish as well. They enjoyed their beer and always had a good laugh. I think I'm good from now on. I practiced this bit a little bit. There were several people that I wish to thank. Firstly, my family in Mornington, who looked after Des and myself for many weeks. And I really thank you all so much. And my son Tim, who looked after our home in Kai and mowed the lawns and kept an eye on the chooks. A huge thank you to you. And to my neighbour Roz, who came in every day to help Peggy out the washing, make beds and anything I was unable to do. We shared many laughs and many tears together. I thank you, Roz, for all your help and company. Des and I were very happy and I will miss him dearly. Maisie misses you too, which is their dog, and is very upset without you at times. Rest in peace, Blue Bag. Love from Claire. I'm sorry, Claire, that I messed that up so badly. I think it's my awful young eyes. Pictures have a wonderful way of capturing precious memories and making sure that you have a keepsake of the time spent with Des. So we're going to watch a slideshow now of photos from Des's life.
Now's not the time for wailing while there's water in the river. We'll all lay down and cry when it's gone. I'll be a jackass and laugh at every sunrise, celebrate the day when it's born. And we'll cruise one more time down the river while our hearts overflow with joy. And we'll reminisce our days down Salisbury Street, Salisbury Street, Salisbury Street. Yeah, we'll cruise one more time down the Murray. Don't wave the river gums goodbye. Just thank 'em for the shade and the story. Tomorrow there'll be time to cry. So untie the ropes, my darlings, there's broken cloud today, and that lucky old will paint those billows blush. Don't wanna miss the sundown shining on the water, chasing sneaky shadows through the bush. And we'll cruise one more time down the river while our hearts overflow with joy. And we'll reminisce our day down Salisbury Street, Salisbury Street, Salisbury Street. Yeah, we'll cruise one more time down the Murray. Don't wave the river gums goodbye. Just thank 'em for the shade and the story. Tomorrow there'll be time to cry.
Memories and photos are so very important in the grief and healing process. Although you will never fully recover from losing Des, take comfort in knowing that the pain will lessen, and the memories that once pained you to think about will slowly turn to appreciation for the times you once shared with him, and all the joy that he brought into your life. Everyone here will have a memory of Des that will come to your mind when you least expect it. Something that brings a smile to your face and joy to your heart. He affected your life in some way or another. From the many stories that I've heard about Des and the person that he affected your life in a positive way, because that's the kind of person he truly was, even if at times he did not like to admit it. I've chosen a poem today to read. In the service, the words may be words that Des would have said himself if he were able. The poem is called Think of Me. Think of me as one at rest. For me, you should not weep. I have no pain, no troubled thoughts, for I am just asleep. The living, thinking me that was is now forever still, and life goes on without me now, as time forever will. If your heart is heavy now because I've gone away, dwell not long upon it, friend, for none of us can stay. Those of you who liked me, I sincerely thank you all, but those of you who loved me, I thank you most of all. Like the words in this lovely poem tell us, Des is now at peace. There is no more pain, no more suffering. He is now having his well-deserved rest. Remember the good times you shared with him and keep his memory alive. As we come to the end of the memorial service today, I invite you, if you haven't already, to grab a drink and join in with me in a final toast to Des. If you will all be upstanding, please. Des, you are a legend of your time, a true gentleman, a pillar of strength to your family and anyone else who had the pleasure of knowing you. Your family and friends stand here today proud to have had the privilege of being part of your life story. You will be forever deeply missed and remembered fondly always. May you forever rest in peace. Here's to Des. And finally, just so we make this service a little more Des's style, we will finish today with the theme song of his beloved football club, Carlton. You may place earplugs in your ears if this is too much to bear.
We are the Navy Blues. We are the old dark Navy Blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark blues. We are the Navy Blues. We are the old dark Navy Blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark blues.
just been instructed to let you know that there's going to be another slideshow happening during the wake. And if you're lucky enough and you don't blink, you might actually see a photo of Des with hair. So thank you all for your attendance, and that ends the service today.